The Lord's recovery is a term coined by the Christian preacher Watchman Nee and promoted by Witness Lee that refers to a cumulative recovery of truths lost during what they refer to as the degradation of the church beginning from the 2nd century. Although Nee and Lee recognized that there were recoveries before the time of the Reformation, their opinion was that the Lord's recovery began with Martin Luther in the Reformation because it was from then that significant recoveries were made. The principle of recovery. Witness Lee taught that God was always moving to first establish something, and when it was damaged by Satan, God would move a second time to recover what was lost. According to Lee, this recovery happened first in creation. According to Lee, the record of God creating the universe is in Genesis 1:1. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The next verse continues with, and the earth became waste and empty, indicating something was lost in the original creation. Then the heavens and the earth were recovered in 6 days, beginning with, God moved upon the face of the waters. Similarly, the Jewish temple was built by Solomon and then destroyed and subsequently recovered when the Jewish remnant returned from Babylon to Jerusalem, as recorded in Ezra and Nehemiah. Witness Lee wrote that, the goal of the Lord's recovery is to recover the reality, life, livingness, strength, power, and impact of the matters revealed in the Scriptures. A brief history. Although recoveries occurred before the Reformation, Nee taught that God's greatest recoveries occurred from the 16th century onwards, beginning with justification by faith through Martin Luther. The recovery then went on with the Anabaptists, who baptized those justified by faith. The following individuals are considered to have contributed to the recovery as well. John Calvin, who established the Scottish Presbyterian Church. Philip Jacob Spener, who led his followers into the practice of 1 Corinthians 14. Christian David, Count Zinzendorf, and the Moravian Brethren, who were among the first to evangelize worldwide. Miguel de Molinos, who wrote Spiritual Guide. Madame Guyon, who contributed to the matters of the union with God's will and the denial of the self. Father Francois Fenelon worked with Madame Guyon to release many spiritual messages. The Church in Philadelphia. Gottfried Arnold taught on outward practices of the meeting of the church. John Wesley, Charles Wesley, and George Whitefield recovered the matters of salvation, eradication of sin, sanctification, and open-air preaching. Bible expositors among the brethren such as John Nelson Darby, Edward Cronin and Anthony Norris Groves, William Kelly, Charles Henry McIntosh, Benjamin Wills Newton, and John Gifford Bellet. Charles Stanley, George Cutting, who wrote Safety, Certainty, and Enjoyment. Robert Govett, who taught on the matter of Christian reward. Bible's expositors such as George Hawkins Pember, David Moriarson Panton, Hudson Taylor. George Muller, who taught on prayer and faith in God's Word. Some among the Christian and Missionary Alliance such as Albert Benjamin Simpson and A. J. Gordon, who practiced living by faith and divine healing. Robert Pearsall Smith, who taught that sanctification came through consecration and faith. Mrs. Hannah Whittle Smith, who wrote The Christian Secret of a Happy Life. Others such as Stocknell, Evan Hopkins, and Andrew Murray, who wrote The Spirit of Christ, continued What Guyon's denial of the self and began conferences that led to the Keswick Convention. H. C. Trumbull, who spoke on the overcoming life at the Keswick Convention. Mrs. Jessie Penn Lewis, who wrote War on the Saints, and taught about the cross of Christ with help of the writings of Guyon, and Brother Holden, who experienced and taught lessons on the cross with help from Penn Lewis teachings. Watchman Nee and Witness Lee considered themselves as beneficiaries of this recovery, and believed that they were part of its continuation. Other people considered to be part of the Lord's recovery include Johann Arndt, Theodore Austin Sparks, Margaret E. Barber, Bernard of Clairvaux, Jacob Bain, Peter Bowler, John Bunyan, Brother Lawrence Nicholas Herman, Jan Hus, George Henry Lang, William Law, Dwight Lyman Moody, Charles Haddon Spurgeon, William Tyndale, John Wycliffe, and Aidan Wilson Tozer.